Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is your first day of the MST Cultural Humility training, and I'm just thrilled to get to talk to you today. We are going to start by talking about creating safe and brave spaces, and you will have some time today as a group to set expectations. And then we're going to talk about what cultural humility is and what positionality is, and then I'll set you off to do some exercises. So let me share my screen. So we're really going to talk about brave spaces and what creates a brave space. Brene Brown just defines vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. She also states that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, learning, and accountability. And this is really going to be the cornerstone of the space that we want to create today for learning. Our lens is influenced by our own lived experiences. We must listen to the truth as other people experience it and acknowledge their experience as the truth, their truth. We don't need to take on the other's perspective, but we must become curious about it and seek to understand what they see and why they see it that way. We do this by listening to understand instead of listening to respond. When faced with fear, we are standing on the learning edge, poised to discover something new about ourselves or others. We want to step out and take a risk to experience and offer something that might be different for the purpose of creating a learning opportunity or a teachable moment. Critical thinking requires gathering information from multiple perspectives and careful assessment. By questioning and being open to questioning, we can more easily understand one another's perspectives and allow space within discussions for the complexity of thoughts and ideas. Examining our intentions helps us to have and check our boundaries. This also enables us to hold ourselves accountable for our words and actions, thus promoting a deeper level of self-awareness. For example, is what I am about to share for the purposes of advancing dialogue or merely self-serving? Am I oversharing? Is what I am saying operating from a place of personal integrity? So that's a framing of brave space. One last thing I want to say is about mindfulness. Allowing ourselves to be in the moment with intention is really important for the work we're going to do today. It might seem obvious, but when we're dealing with difficult or challenging topics in the classroom, we can easily begin a mental dialogue that would cause us to be somewhere other than the present moment or wanting to be somewhere other than the present moment. The practice of mindfulness helps us to be aware of our inner chatter and emotions and quiet them without judgment. So we're going to be able to listen for the sake of listening rather than listening to respond, the more mindful that we are. I'm going to shift gears a little bit now, and I'm going to talk about why we're discussing cultural humility and cultural responsivity at all, and how it's connected to our process in MST. So you are all very, very familiar with FIT assessments. If a clinician is skilled in cultural humility and thinks to ask questions like, in your culture, at what age is it accepted for a teen to come and go as they want? Or the parent has the insight to label such a driver, then cultural factors will be considered in that fit. But if we don't ask or the parent doesn't offer it up, such culturally specific drivers are not going to be documented on the fit and are not going to be considered when interventions are developed. If culturally a boy is considered an adult at the age of 15, then it's unlikely that the parent will intervene when he comes and goes at night, regardless of any brilliant plans that you as a clinician develop and help them implement. So interventions will only be as well matched to the family as we are skilled at cultural assessment. With no training in this area, fit circles and then the subsequent interventions that are developed from them are narrow. If we're not skilled in addressing the power differential in the therapeutic relationship, and that power differential is impacted by racial, socioeconomic, gender, sexual orientation differences, then the impact of bias on that fit assessment will go unnoticed. You know that we use fit circles in supervision and consultation, that those fit circles inform all the interventions we come up with and ensure that we're aligned with the 9 principles. If the fit circles have gaps, then the clinical direction and all the feedback you get is going to be off base. So our goal in this training series is to increase our skill at culturally appropriate, culturally humble, culturally responsive assessments so that the support we provide families is better connected to their cultural strengths. So now we're going to talk a little bit about even what does cultural humility mean. In 1998, in their seminal article on cultural humility, Tara Vallon and Murray Garcia coined the term and encouraged a move away from an expectation of cultural competence and a move towards a lifelong commitment to curiosity and self-evaluation in the context of understanding difference. So cultural competency speaks to knowledge. It's a knowledge-based approach. Cultural competence is a framework. It's a state of mind. Cultural humility is a state of mind. Cultural competence has largely been replaced with the idea of cultural humility because it's just not possible to know everything about a culture. It's much more realistic to develop a solid skill set in inquiry. So that's what we're working on now. In 2013, Yeager and Bauer-Wu described cultural humility as the essential foundation for researchers in the clinical domain. Their work describes attributes of cultural humility, including the recognition of power differentials, the attempt to minimize said power differentials, leading with respect, as well as making bias explicit. Throughout the literature, self-reflection, curiosity, and an openness to feedback are core components of cultural humility. So then in 2020, Furonda published The Theory of Cultural Humility. This theory has borrowed concepts from medicine, nursing, and education. This model assumes that all humans are different and diverse, yet are part of a global community. Humans are inherently kind and giving. Each person has equal value. Cultural conflict is normal and expected, and humans are lifelong learners. Behaving in a culturally humble way involves being flexible and approaching problems from a growth mindset. The foundation of this theory rests in the belief in the value of all humans. I think you can see the overlap there between our 9 principles and really the assumptions that we work with in MST. So here we have the rainbow model of cultural humility. This is a visual manifestation of the theory of cultural humility. This model offers a path for individuals who wish to put the model into practice. So the context of historical precedent, political climate, personal beliefs, physical environment, and situational context are displayed as rays in the rainbow, arching over and framing the cultural conflict and presenting an opportunity for decision-making. The cultural conflict goes through a process influenced by perspective and power. When faced with a cultural conflict, there's 3 options. The first is applying cultural humility, represented by the cloud, and resulting in a positive outcome, which is represented by the sun, which is surrounded by the words lifelong learning. The second and third options, which are cultural ambivalence and cultural destruction, result in negative outcomes, which are represented by the raindrop. The key to this whole model is flexibility. The awareness of diversity and power imbalances allow the individual to approach any situation with a depth of curiosity. So the primary premise of practicing through a lens of cultural humility is self-awareness. In order to do this, we need to model the effective use of our own positionality or awareness of our own social locations. This includes our age, our gender, our race, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, as well as many other criteria. We're going to spend most of this first day doing a variety of exercises to help increase our awareness about our own social location, and we'll wrap the day up by writing our own positionality statement. This work will inform our work going forward in practicing with cultural humility and cultural responsivity.